Hey guys, Youngblood with you, and we got our second round of answers from CIG on the Tumbril Nova Tonk. So let's go ahead and talk about what that very short list of answers included. Starting off, they answered a question that was very similar from their first Q&A, and that's why should I have a tank if almost nothing can carry it? Their answer was that they can be spawned on planet side, and there's going to be a large number of vehicles in the game that never leave the planet they were spawned at. Now, I think this answer was missing a lot of information because they could have sold the difference in how ground tank versus air fighter a little bit better. When it succeeds, really the situations to where the tank's going to be best. But to add to that, nobody wants to buy a $100 war item that sits in one location. It doesn't make sense. It's kind of a silly answer for CIG to give. That even goes against a lot of what players are playing for. Exploring the vastness of the universe that we're playing in and killing different species and different things in different places. If you've got a mostly stationary vehicle, it takes a lot of value away from that. There's no way this thing is going to be typically left in one place. We just need to figure out what it's going to be, and I think this probably speaks to CIG not knowing what it's going to be at this point. We really need to get better clarification as to what can actually haul these things and how players can move them, because having to leave it behind is frankly not an option. The other sort of questionable answer I saw in regards to this is if the tank can really hold up against something like a Saber or a Hornet. And they say that the missiles and the laser repeaters on the tanks are going to be its best defense. Most notably since the turret's going to be moving slowly and it's going to have a hard time using that main cannon to be able to hit a fighter in the air. Now, it's interesting to hear them say missiles, because while we know you could swap out for missiles, they talked about the firebug system that fires compressed energy and how it was super effective against the Teverin, and now they're just saying missiles. So I'm not sure if they're just kind of lumping firebugs in as the missile category, but we do need some clarification there. Either way, they said that they wouldn't be much of a deterrent for long, though. So basically, you're talking about a Saber or a Super Hornet, they're going to be able to outclass a tank in almost every situation. It may do better against entry-level fighters. So I think it really takes us back to this thing, not really knowing how this thing's going to match up against fighters, but now we're getting a little bit more clarity that the fighters are probably going to be superior overall, which we would expect. I mean, air in real life is kind of OP anyways. So I think we're talking about lowered value for what this thing is. But we need to know what all of a sudden provides benefits, like staying factor, for example. Maybe there's weather factors that get in the way, that kind of make it so flying is hard. Gravitational anomalies, like those sort of things. If they kind of provide some like screens from fighters, then all of a sudden the tank is going to be your best bet in that area. So it's a lot of kind of development and we just have to wait and see how that all plays out. Outside of those, we get into the very simple answers. We find out that the driver can see out of the tank via a screen using external cameras, but they also have the ability to open up a slit that has a protective glass for straight visibility without the use of a camera, which may end up having some gameplay implications. We'll see, like if your camera can be damaged, you have to use that slit, for example. The Nova does have military-grade components, so it will have a little bit more durability than like a civilian thing against EMPs. However, if the blast is close enough or powerful enough, it's going to be impacted just like any other ship would, though it doesn't come with the problem that ships have where you fall to a surface and die. That's not a problem in a tank. You just sit there until your power comes back on. As far as the range on the vehicle, it's said to be average. However, it's not going to be comparable to exploration vehicles like the Ursa or something of that nature. It's funny hearing them say that it's average when there's nothing really else in that category. So we don't know what the range is. I mean, we're just throwing our hands up and say when we get other vehicles in that are in a similar category, this will be somewhere in the middle. The tank is not amphibious. I don't know why anybody thought that it would be. The last questions all seem to relate to the main turret, where we find out that it's got a firing range or firing arc on the vertical line. Is about negative 10 degrees down or about 35 degrees up. 35 degrees up is pretty good. I'm pretty happy with that. In PlanetSide, I really enjoyed trying to swat fighters out of the sky with a tank. So I imagine I'll probably at least try that a few times here. And 35 degrees is a pretty good elevation. They also say, though, that it does, even with that elevation, you're going to get some arc, but it's not intended to be an artillery platform, or it's not really meant to shoot ships out of the sky, though I'm sure you can find situations where that's going to work. And that was really it. Not a ton of new information, which is kind of disappointing because the firebug, what can actually carry it, and a few other topics really could have been fleshed out a little bit more, and I feel like it's kind of speaking to them just not knowing at this point, rather than actually omitting the information. So I'd still consider the tank a pass. I'm not interested in buying one. I think it's interesting to buy one in-game, especially if we're talking about something that can't really leave a planet side. You know, it might make sense to make some profits there and then buy a tank to sit at your base as a defense if you need it, but I don't know. Tank's not for me. I don't see the value at all. I think the air is going to be a lot more versatile, and it sounds like now a lot more powerful, so we'll just have to wait and see. So if you have questions on any of this, please let me know. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for more, and have yourselves a wonderful day. Take care.